buying used, right?
Yeah. So I've bought 4 used side-by-sides. I've bought a full-blown race car.
I've heard some of those stories.
And honestly, I had less problems with that than the WAG Z that I had, that it seemed like the guy drank and drove it a lot, and it just had a lot of weird issues. It seemed like he hit things, like, you know, tie rod broke, and then discovered that all the welds that hold the bracket that the steering rack bolts into are broken, and so I'm like out on the trail and the steering rack falls off, like horribly like unsafe issues.
Did he say he drove it to the grocery store only?
Well, yeah, it was 5 years old. It only had 1,000 miles on it, you know.
Never been drove,
never
always
even
in the garage.
Never even been registered. And yeah.
That explains a lot.
Yeah, and so, and then, you know, I've also bought the old man car from the 75-year-old man. Turned out he kind of knew that the thing was worn out, and that's why he was selling it. So you really got to know why they're selling it.
Well, they're never going to honestly tell you, are they really going to?
Well,
is anyone going to be like, oh yeah, it's falling apart, that's why I'm selling it?
Right.
No one's going to buy it, you know?
Yeah.
So we're going to do a poll yet again. We're doing another poll. Now, what do you buy when it's a used side-by-side? Like, do you drive Miss Daisy's, the one that was drove by Grandma to the grocery store and back? Do you buy mine, which was raced around the dunes, the trails, the rocks, everywhere? Broken properly, I would say.
And well maintained.
Well maintained, but maybe used a lot, or used at high speeds a lot,
Depending
right?
on who you buy it from.
Yeah, when Mike looks at it, he cringes, you know? So it's that, right? Or you buy Mike's, which he can probably ask 10 grand extra than what it's worth because the thing looks like it's never touched the dirt, even though he does ride fast.
Yeah.
So in the poll, tell us, how are you going to do it? What side-by-side are you going to buy and why? And let's kind of go over a couple of our experiences.
Just, heck no, and I'm buying new no matter what.
Yeah, there is that. Like, I'm just never going to buy anybody's used side-by-side. And that's a lot of where I stand a lot. But
So I was there until I found the Turbo S, which had low miles. It had, you know, 1,200 miles on it, and it had only been driven by a little old lady. You know, she's like 67 years old. She's in our group. I know her. I know people who know her. I've followed the car on rides. I knew the car. So it had all the receipts for everything done at the dealer. So I was comfortable with that.
how did that one work out for you?
That's been fine. I haven't had any issues.
Okay.
No expensive repairs.
But I
on
would
that
say
car.
she was going on these group rides, so it's not like she's driving grocery store only. You know, she's driving at a decent pace sometimes on these group rides,
I
or were these
never
really
saw
slow
the-
group rides?
No, with her in the car, I never saw it over 40 miles an hour.
Oh, okay. So this was Grandma drove Miss
find.
Daisy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mike, what do you do when you're buying used?
When I'm buying used, which I bought 2 used, my first Maverick, the Maverick X3 was used 2-seater. I looked for an older gentleman, you know,
Yeah.
someone that really takes care of their car. They put a lot of money into it, and they're not getting that back, obviously. So I'm kind of making out. And you know, when I go and look at the car, I look it over with a microscope. You know, I get
And then you
underneath
probably
it.
call 20 other people.
Yeah,
too.
right.
How did he really take care
how
of
did
this?
he do? You know, I look it up on Facebook. I'll look him
Heavy,
up
like
on,
FBI
I'll stalk
investigation?
Him, I'll stalk him on wherever. You know,
For
I can
weeks,
find,
right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Is he really driving this safe? Is he really doing this? So
Profile picture him just sending it
Yeah.
off.
God.
So that's kind of what I look for. So I bought my latest car, the Mav R, and I bought that again from an older gentleman.
But it had probably, what, 200 miles on it?
200 miles, but there's another guy, he bought it. He put a lot of money into it. He bought the sand wheels,
Yeah.
which, you know.
You got a lot of free stuff on that car.
Yeah, he
That
spent
was a
a
deal.
lot of money on it. And I actually went in and I created a spreadsheet and I looked at a new one and then everything that I was going to buy for it right away, and I put a price to it, and then I did his, and I looked at the ending dollar amount at the end, and I said, okay, pros and cons, which one is worth it? His was far worth it. The wheels and tires.
The wheels alone is a
Because
big
at
cost.
that time, the Maverick R, no one was really making those wheels, so they were selling for like $630-some a piece. So I was getting all that, and I'm like, you know what? It's a done deal. So, and it was a good car. It's still a good car. You guys see it in the
Yeah,
videos.
yeah,
I feel like
it's done good.
The trap with the accessories is, are you gonna buy that stuff anyway? Like,
That's the key. Yeah.
Yeah, I
buy
see a
something
lot
you
of
don't
people
need.
be like, oh, it's got 20 grand accessories. Like, Yeah, but how many of those accessories actually benefit you?
Correct.
You know?
And that was the hard thing with that car because, you know, he had like a little stereo system in there and I ripped that out right away. He bought that a decal kit for it, which I'm never going to put on the car. You know, there's a few things, but, you know, the headlights he had on there were $1,000.
Headlights are nice to get.
The radios, things of that nature. I'm like, it's well worth it. You know,
Yeah.
I'm saving.
Yeah.
So that's my take. That's what you got to look at when you're looking at a used car. Look at all the options that the guy put on it. You know, take the time like I did, write it all out and see if it's well worth it compared to a new one and what you're going to put into it.
And pop the hood, see if there's a rat nest going into the bus bar. See if you can follow the wires if something stops working. Are you going to be able to fix that radio if it stops coming on?
Right.
Yeah, I would say I've had, with used side-by-sides, used toys in general, I don't know, I think personally, I would buy a side-by-side that was drove kind of like you're gonna drive. Now, if you're gonna drive it like Miss Daisy, then go buy one that Miss Daisy was driving to the grocery store, right? But if you're gonna drive like bat out of hell, then you should probably find a guy, personally to me, in my opinion, from my experiences, buy a car from a guy that does that. Because what I've experienced is I drove somebody's Miss Daisy car for, it was like 8 years. The thing was probably maybe hit 30 miles an hour on a high note on average. I blew it up in 2 hours. So it blew up in 2 hours. So it's like the thing was just like if Miss Daisy would have just kept driving it, it probably would have been fine for another few years, right?
Yeah.
But then I get in it and I'm like on the throttle, gone, and things gone. 2 hours. And then I've also seen, you know, other things break that broke very easily, which those things they would have already broke if the dude was driving it hard, so they've already been replaced. So that would be kind of like, if you're gonna drive it hard, in my opinion, I know this sounds crazy, but I'm gonna be the devil's advocate, I would buy one that's been kind of drove hard if I'm gonna drive it hard. Just because I don't really trust Miss Daisy's to last, because it's probably gonna blow up.
Yeah.
Like, that's been my experience, you know, if Miss Daisy's been driving it for years, it ain't gonna hold up to you. I don't know what it is. I feel like these things, like, if you're driving them really slow, then that's how they want to be drove till the day they die. And if you change that, see you know. What about you, Bo? You've bought a used one.
I bought 2 used ones. I bought one from a dealership. I bought the YXE from a dealership. And they both had exactly the same miles on it. 450 miles, like, on the dot. So
that's low miles.
Low miles, low hours. The YXE was kind of an anomaly. I bought it 5 years used, but it had 450 miles.
So that's scary in my opinion.
It was very scary, but it came with the stock tires, which I replaced very quickly, and it came with sand pedals. So it was pretty obvious they had just driven it in the dunes out in Nevada. They hadn't really done much with it, but I couldn't ask them. Like, it was basically sight unseen, besides I got to see it go up and down the street once or twice.
Yeah.
But just putting 2 and 2 together, it was pretty obvious they had done very minimal riding on it and very low impact, very low speeds and stuff like that. The other car that I bought, I knew exactly how it was driven, and it was not driven like that. It was driven like he was going to sell it in 4 months, which is exactly what he did. So as far as like the comments that you made, the weak points had not been replaced, and I replaced all those.
Some of them have been replaced just with stock parts, though.
Some of them had been replaced just back with stock parts. So then they broke again under my care, and I replaced them with something better. So as far as buying a used side-by-side, I like the notion of knowing what you're going to buy before you get into it. The experience I had with a Can-Am, I was a lot less hesitant of buying it because I could see exactly how the car was driven. I bought it from a friend of ours. We knew exactly what it had gone through. I knew the issues that it had. I knew the way it had been driven, and I was going to drive relatively about the same pace. And so that was a good buy. My one recommendation is if you can find a side-by-side that your buddy has and you know how it was driven, buy it off of them. Even if you're not getting the greatest deal, buy it off of them. You know how something was driven before you get it. That's my opinion.
I hope we don't hurt your feelings here.
That's fine.
Me and your wife have laughed at you because you have said, I will absolutely never buy one of your side-by-sides to me.
That is true.
And you have bought one that has been rolled or wrecked three times.
Twice.
3?
No, 3. It was 3, yep.
And it was turned on when it was cold and wheels spinning within 5 seconds.
Yep.
So I'm curious, what would make you want to buy that over, like, let's just say like mine?
It had 450 miles on it.
That was it.
There
The
you
miles.
go. The
okay.
miles and the hours. That's it. If that car had 2,000, how much did your Pro R have?
It was also during COVID times when things were tough to get, right?
Things were tough to get.
Everything was overpriced.
It was what I wanted. It was exactly what I wanted. It was what I'd been looking at.
You'd seen it perform.
So another factor to consider is title risk. When you buy these late model cars, a lot of them have a loan against them, and how are you going to get the title? How are you going to get it registered in your name? If you buy it from a buddy, you know that's going to be taken care of, and you're going to get it done. I don't know. I bought a fairly new boat that had a loan against it. I paid cash. I paid it off, and I was fighting with the bank for 6 months trying to get the title.
Okay.
As the residential banker here, have the title in your hand. Don't deal with this.
I bought some jet skis from a friend. I still haven't gotten a title.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can go with the friend thing.
Okay.
Title. I'll just. Can we just end
That was
this?
6 months
Don't
ago.
buy anything unless they have the pink slip.
Okay.
But he never said
Or
he
the
had the
title.
title, so
He did. Yeah, he did say he had the title.
Yeah. Let me. I mean, seriously, I've worked in that industry long enough. Don't buy a car if it's got a lien on it, unless you just absolutely trust that person wholeheartedly. They're your son, they're your daughter, they're your kid, they're your significant other, something. Don't buy a car unless you have the pink slip in hand, period, end of story. Don't do this.
Well, if they can't afford to pay it off, can't you just go to the bank and pay the bank and then they send it to
or
you?
that would be the other way to do it.
You handle
Pay
it through the bank. You don't handle it privately. At
And
their
there's
house.
a way to do it with the bank
Right.
where they will send the title to you, not to the person that you've now paid off.
So I
Okay,
did
you need
that.
to be clear on that.
I did that, and the bank turned out had lost the title.
So it's the bank's fault. It really wasn't that person's
No,
fault.
no, it was not his fault at all. It
In
was
Ar-
the bank's
okay.
fault.
In Arizona, though, we
Yeah.
don't have that issue. We have electronic title, so we
Yeah.
just transfer right to you. But please, just save yourself an enormous amount of headache and heartache. Just do it. Just have the pink slip.
Yep. Safest, easiest way.
Safest, easiest way.
What are you looking for from the seller of why you're buying theirs versus somebody else's?
I don't care. I'm gonna look the car over really good. I'm gonna.
You don't
shake
care
it.
about their stories?
Nope, I don't. I don't care if it's Miss Daisy's, because Miss Daisy might have forgot to change her oil for 4 years. Okay. I don't care if it's the guy that takes it to the track, because if it's the guy that takes it to the track, well, he probably does maintenance. And I don't care if it's its first set of ball joints or its fifth set of ball joints, as long as they're tight and right, and the car is tight and right, and it's put together well. I'm gonna go with that one.
So you drive anybody's. You don't have a preference of what you're looking for.
Nope.
You're just gonna shake it down and look at it yourself.
I want a good car. Yep. I'm gonna look it over, and if everything checks out to me, then I'll buy that one.
Okay.
I don't care if it's yours or if it's our friend Annie who comes and spends winters here.
Yeah.
Because she is Miss Daisy.
Yes. And I mean, that's one thing I've kind of looked at is like, dude, I really don't want Miss Daisy's anymore.
No.
Miss Daisy's hasn't been tested.
Yep.
And we don't know if Miss Daisy's ever changed anything in there.
Yep. She definitely probably hasn't ran it at 8,000 RPMs for a few miles. So it might still be dealing with that loose rod bolt from brand new that's made it 1,000 miles somehow. And
Yeah.
who knows?
So what was your thoughts
I
of it?
like new. I don't really like.
But if you're gonna buy used, you don't have a choice. You're buying used because you're too poor for new.
you're going to pay. And so if you're the kind of guy that rebuilds your engine and rebuilds all your parts and does it yourself, buy used, you know. But if you're not a mechanic and you can't do those things, you need to buy new. You need the warranty. Those are the two. That's with me.
But let's just say
I'm not a mechanic.
Let's just
so
say,
I bought
Brent,
new.
you're not loaded. Okay. Your budget is
You're still gonna have
30.
to fix it.
Your budget's under 30, and you need a Pro R.
You still got to have it rebuilt and fixed and new parts and blah blah blah.
So your opinion is just like F this.
No.
I'm not buying it used.
No,
That's
I
just all
buy
there is
used,
to it.
But I bought new because I'm not a mechanic. That's my.
So you're just
answer.
not doing used.
No.
There we go. So go in the poll and tell us what you would buy and how do you want it drove when you go to buy it. Not what the story was, actually what happened with the car.
And leave your experiences. What?
Yeah. Tell us in the comments. Tell us your experiences. And like I say, you can go to our Facebook forum. We'll have the poll there. It's Desert SXS. Or you can just do it on the YouTube. If as long as that's working, you can do the poll right there. So thanks for tuning in and thanks for watching. Subscribe!